You call him a nigger, the child?
The fuck you talking
Did you
about?
call the child the nigger word?
None of your fucking business.
It is my own business. You call him a nigger?
So this is a viral video that many of you have already seen, and by the way, it will be linked without my redactions of certain language in the description of my video, under where it says sources, of Shiloh Hendricks, a Rochester, Minnesota woman, getting into an argument with a Somali man who has an interesting criminal history over the issue of whether or not she referred to a black boy at the playground as the N-word. Now, throughout the course of the viral video, Shiloh essentially owns up to the fact that she did say that, and her reasoning, her rationale for it, is that alleged black boy ended up going into her bag and took a toy that was meant for her child, and therefore, since he is going to steal, she is going to hurl racial epithets at him. Now, of course, like we've seen with a bunch of different viral Karen hoaxes, which is distinct from this situation right here, people have decided to target this woman in an attempt to ruin her life. They publish her name, her address, all these other personal details. There have been reports of people following her home, and I'm not sure if this particular Somali guy ended up following her home, all because she said this no word at the park. And in response to all of this, she decided to start a GiveSendGo, or somebody decided to start a GiveSendGo, which is now nearly at $600,000. $600,000 for a woman who admittedly used a racial epithet against a child at a park based on a situation that is not good, but still. And that seems to be ridiculous to me. Now, we're going to talk about this. We're going to break this down. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Okay, why don't you have the balls to say it right now again?
You nigger.
Okay. All right, that's what you say.
You don't go digging through people's shit, you dumb.
Nobody digging into your shit.
A little kid just did, you dumbass.
That little kid, you call him a nigger?
Yeah.
The little child?
What if he acts like one, he's gonna...
Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child, 5-year-old, and the N-word.
If that's what he's gonna act
That's
like.
what you're gonna call him.
That's what he's gonna act like.
So look, before we get into the serious implications of this particular video and the reaction to said video, I do want to point out that it is funny that this guy says, that's a hate speech, like you're not allowed to say that.
You know, that's a hate speech, and you can be recorded for that.
I don't give a shit.
Huh. Okay, we'll see about that, what the internet has to say about you.
When in reality, this is the United States of America, and yes, you are allowed to hurl racial epithets at people. That is protected speech. In fact, hate speech is not a real thing at all whatsoever in the United States of America, because it is obviously a weapon used to repress people, used to censor speech, and we see the implications of that being implemented in nations across Europe, and of course, in additional nations around the world. So yeah, we can all laugh at this guy saying that's a hate speech, when in reality, that's completely meaningless. But obviously, just because something is protected speech by law, that doesn't mean that people aren't going to be upset about it. That doesn't mean that people aren't going to be hurt about it. But the thing is, like we see, people on the internet.com tend to take this way too far, and they decided to target this woman at her home and whatnot. And obviously, I find that to be unacceptable. That being said, this idea that this woman is the person that we need to hold up as a champion is ridiculous in every possible way. And by the way, this is where you can start hitting the dislike button, because I am not on board in any way, shape, or form with her fundraiser, because fundamentally the issue at hand is that she used a racial epithet against a child that was originally reported as a 5-year-old autistic child in order to maximize victimization. But I don't give a damn about that either. The kid could be 10 or whatever age you want to put him. It's still inappropriate to do in this particular situation. And of course, it is not worthy of nearly $600,000. Now, of course, the excuses come pouring in from all different sides. We end up hearing about how, oh, well, the reason we gotta raise this lady money is because black people ended up raising money for Carmelo Anthony, who murdered a white person. And you're not gonna tell me that it's actually worse for you to raise money for a black killer rather than a white woman who used a racial epithet. And obviously, I'm not gonna say that because that's ridiculous, but that's the most obvious false dichotomy in the history of ever. Yeah, Carmelo Anthony and his supporters are gravely immoral. On this channel, I said repeatedly, and I've stuck by this probably earlier than anyone else, that the reason people are donating money to Carmelo Anthony, supporting Carmelo Anthony, manufacturing fake autopsy reports and fake police statements in order to defame Austin Metcalf, it's not because these people think Carmelo Anthony is innocent, it's because they know he's guilty and they like the fact that he killed a white person. And I liken it to the O.J. Simpson jury, who again admittedly said they knew OJ was guilty and they voted not guilty due to the fact that they wanted revenge for things like Rodney King.
Do you think that they're members of the jury that voted to acquit OJ because of Rodney King?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
How many of you think felt that way?
Oh, probably 90% of them.
90%? Did you feel that way?
Yes.
That was payback.
Uh-huh.
You think that's right?
So yeah, let's be 100% clear about this. The people who donate money to Carmelo Anthony because he's black and he killed a white person and they like that are morally depraved human beings, and again, they are not fit for civilized society. Obviously, I have a major issue with that. I've made multiple different videos about the Carmelo Anthony Austin Metcalf case, but the fact is, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, even if emotionally you feel like there's some connection. In reality, you are raising money for a woman who threw a racial epithet at a child who gives a damn about his age or his autism status, and it has no connection to the Metcalf situation. In fact, people have pointed out that Austin Metcalf's father's GiveSendGo, or GoFundMe actually, has less money than both Carmelo Anthony and, of course, this woman's GiveSendGo. Now, I point out that this is actually not 100% dead on accurate, because we do have a separate GoFundMe for Austin Metcalf's mother that has raised money, and the combined total of both of those seem to be above where this woman and where Carmelo Anthony is at. But the fact is, as of right now, people are just raising money and they're saying it's based on white identity for somebody who's not the victim of a hoax, for somebody who actually did throw that epithet at that child, and by the way, is completely unapologetic about it. So as of right now, this GiveSendGo is at $660,000, which is absurd. So when I see somebody like Shiloh getting $660,000 just for calling a little black boy the N-word, all I could think of are those iconic words from Anna Kasparian that I play at the beginning of nearly every one of my videos, which are, give me the money.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Yeah, give me the money instead. So we go to this woman's GiveSendGo, which is entitled Help Protect My Family, and it says, hello, my name is Shiloh, and I have recently been put in a very dire situation. I recently had a kid steal from my 18-month-old son's diaper bag at the park. I called the kid out for what he was. Another man who we recently found out has a history with law enforcement proceeded to record me and follow me to my car. He then posted these videos online, which has caused my family and myself great turmoil. My SSN has been leaked, my address, my phone number has been given out freely, my family members are being attacked, my eldest child may not be able to go back to school, even where I exercise has been exposed. I am asking you for help to assist in protecting my family. I fear I must relocate. I have 2 small children who do not deserve this. We have been threatened to the extreme by people online. Anything will help. We cannot and will not live in fear. Thank you. So yeah, that's the description for her GiveSendGo, which by the way, upon checking is at $660,000 at the time of me recording this video, not almost $600,000 like I thought earlier on, and it is still receiving a ton of different donations. And the key line that I want to focus on in this particular GiveSendGo is actually right there, where she says, I called him out for what he was. So she is tripling down on her use of the N-word against this child, and for me, I'm sorry, I'm not giving this woman a dime for her tripling down on this racial epithet, because regardless what you think about somebody stealing, and by the way, on this channel, I call out thieves over and over again, I call out softness on juvenile criminals over and over again, the fact is, the racial epithets are not kosher with me. They're not going to be a good thing that I'm going to take into account and say, you know what, this woman is deserving of of the money that I earn on this channel or any of you out there earn. I find this to be ridiculous from top to bottom. But again, like I said with the Carmelo Anthony situation, where they're donating money to Carmelo Anthony because he's guilty, because they like that he killed a white person, in this particular case, people are shelling out the bucks because they like that she used the N-word. They like that she's unapologetic about it. And while you could say that you understand that and whatnot, the fact is this does not make the country better in any way, shape, or form. It significantly makes it worse. And while I see a lot of people on the internet.com saying that this is proof that we are at the end of white guilt, I will just point out that nothing could be further from the truth, because if you were actually interested in fighting against white guilt, you would have donated all this money against all these women who were victimized by these viral Karen hoaxes that did nothing racist at all whatsoever. In reality, this is an example of moral depravity, an example of tribalism, and a shameful example of just that. Now, of course, again, a lot of people are going to say they donated to the murderer, they donated to Carmelo Anthony. Who has called that out more than me on this particular channel? Absolutely no one. Who has pointed out that, again, that they supported Carmelo Anthony because they believe he's guilty, not because they think he's innocent? Me, again, repeatedly. And the reason why is because I have zero white guilt. You should have zero white guilt, but that doesn't mean you should take it the extra step further and then end up donating a crap ton of money to a woman because she used a racial epithet against a child. And again, I don't need to maximize the kid's victimization status. I don't need to make him a 5-year-old autistic kid. Until that is verified and proven to be true, I don't give a damn about that. I'll spot you the extra 5 years and say it's a 10-year-old, and it is still a wildly inappropriate thing to do. Now, for those of you who are curious about the allegations, or allegations as the super mayor would put it,
false allegations and not facts,
against the guy filming the video, I do want to point out that he did have a sexual assault case where he and another man, by the way, they are both over the age of 30, I believe one of them is over the age of 40, ended up alluring a 16-year-old girl to their home with the promise of a place to stay, and they were accused at the time of raping this 16-year-old girl or forcibly penetrating or some such thing. Of course, that case was dismissed, and it was supposedly dismissed in the interest of justice, but apparently this individual also has another criminal record or another issue with law enforcement where he allegedly assaulted a man and his 10-year-old daughter physically in a stairwell when they asked them to turn down the rap music that they were playing. Now, again, I put that out there in the name of full disclosure because the last thing I want to get into related to this is, of course, the comment section and the GiveSendGo part of it. So, I have given GiveSendGo credit in the Carmelo Anthony case for not taking down his GiveSendGo because they are the platform where you can raise money for your criminal defense. And in fact, the CEO of GiveSendGo has come under a lot of heat because obviously a huge portion of the comments under Carmelo Anthony's GiveSendGo are anti-white hatred. And the reason for this, like I said, is because many of Carmelo Anthony's supporters like that he killed a white kid. Again, they don't believe him to be innocent. And of course, the CEO of GiveSendGo had said repeatedly, that's a free speech issue, we support free speech, etc., etc. Now, of course, fast forward to the Shiloh Hendricks case and her GiveSendGo, and within about 24 hours, they decided to disable the comments due to the racial nature of the comments. Because again, people are supporting Shiloh not because she's being victimized or it's a viral Karen hoax a la Sarah Comrie or Amy Cooper, but because she did use the N-word, and a certain segment of the population likes that she threw a racial epithet at a child and that she's unapologetic about it. But the comments were completely disabled on both GiveSendGos after this, and people are calling out, and rightfully so, the CEO of GiveSendGo as a hypocrite for doing so. Again, a lot of people point out that Carmelo Anthony's GiveSendGo was up for nearly a month without any disabling of comments and whatnot, but less than a day of Shiloh's, and all of a sudden they do that, and then for the appearance of neutrality, they end up disabling the Carmelo Anthony comments. Again, this is true, it is obvious evidence of a double standard, but the fact is, I actually heard that in a Twitter space, and I don't have the audio for you right now, that the CEO of GiveSendGo alluded to what I actually thought was behind this, which is that credit card processors are looking for a way to pull their processing ability from all these different alternative platforms. platforms. And you guys know GiveSendGo is the non-woke alternative to GoFundMe. And the fact is that credit card processors don't give a damn at all whatsoever about anti-white hatred. So all of those comments under the Carmelo Anthony GiveSendGo never actually led to the threat of consequences against the company. So it was perfectly fine in the mind of the CEO to leave that up for freedom of speech, because he had no issue with the comments related to the Kyle Rittenhouse case or related to the Daniel Penny case. Again, GiveSendGo being the platform where money was raised for that. However, they do hate the idea of anti-black racism. So within one day, I am sure he was contacted by Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover to tell him, hey, if you don't cut these comments out, we need to pull the credit cards for this. And therefore, in order to save both GiveSendGos, or in order to save Shiloh's GiveSendGo, I think this is the reason why he decided to pull the comments from both sections. Now, again, it is a double standard. It is ridiculous and absurd, but I think the double standard is actually being held by the credit card processors rather than GiveSendGo, who, again, I believe left to their own devices would leave the fundraiser up completely unchanged and allow the comments, which by the way are quite nasty on both fundraisers, to go unchallenged. Now, with all that being said, with all that information out there, my overall takeaway on this particular issue is no, absolutely not. I am not on board, and neither should you be. The fact is, yes, the people behind the Carmelo Anthony fundraiser, which by the way has nothing to do with this, are morally depraved. The people supporting it, the people cheering it on because they like the fact that a black teenager murdered a white teenager, those people are disgusting in every possible way. And part of the thing that makes them so disgusting is that they are so blinded by tribalism that they're willing to support immoral behavior on the scale of murder in order to make it seem like their side is winning. Now you flip it, and again, the scale is not nearly as bad. We have an instance where we're talking about somebody who used a mean word. It's inappropriate to do so, but you have the same kind of nasty tribalism coming out in support of her, and I find that to be disgusting, especially considering that there are still people like Amy Cooper and Sarah Comrie that have problems getting a job, and they were actually defamed in those particular cases because in reality they didn't do anything racial. They just happened to be a white person who got into a regular ordinary argument with a black person. In one instance, the pregnant physician's assistant ended up having a city bike stolen from her by 4 black teenagers, and yet she was framed as the thief. She was framed as the perpetrator, and she was defamed in this famous clip from Emma Vigeland as drunk, evil, white, and racist, even though again she was pregnant coming off of a shift as a physician's assistant.
She's in work clothes, so my first thought was, is she drunk? Like, is she, I don't know, but she just seemed really out of it, and she's straight up racist, totally. But there was like, she wasn't really making a ton of sense, which was bizarre. And they were like, this is my bike. Just go to the other bike stand, the little docking station, and get your own. It's not that difficult. But yeah, I mean, the white woman fake crying thing, I could do it too, but and then you just turn it off.
Sarah Comrie is somebody who deserves the $660,000 that Shiloh has raised, because it was so absurd to make the claim that a pregnant 36-year-old physician's assistant walked up to black teenagers to steal their bike, something that has never happened in the history of the country, and yet she didn't get anywhere near this kind of payday because, again, it's not actually about framing a white person or harming a white person or doxing a white person in order to forward a racial agenda. This is about people getting tribal and wanting to celebrate the fact that this lady said the N-word and was unapologetic about it. Amy Cooper, same situation. She got cornered in a park by somebody who was threatening to take her dog. Again, according to his own Facebook post, he ends up getting a National Geographic show called Extraordinary Bird Watcher or some such nonsense, and she still, years later, was finding it impossible to find work. She deserves this kind of money, not Shiloh. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts about this particular case. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about some absurd tribalism from a group of white people on the internet.com. Till next time.